Hey everyone, Charlie here. As most of you are aware, Fat Shark recently announced their first major DLC for Vermintide 2, Shadows over Bogenhafen. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but you get the idea. For those of you who aren't up to speed with the important details, we can expect two new missions, the Pit and the Blight Reaper. New Oakreach challenges that involve these new levels. There will be weekly quests for those of you who own the DLC. These will reward strong boxes which include brand new cosmetics. This new DLC will be released on the 20th of August or in a week from the upload of this video. I think it's safe to say we're all looking forward to this DLC. We've been repeating the same content for way too long. I just really hope Fat Shark won't feel like they can relax after this release and spend another 5 or 6 months without releasing any new major DLCs. I guess only time will tell. So I've looked over the patch notes, and as you can imagine, there are tons of bug fixes, performance improvements, balance changes, and so on. It all looks pretty exciting, I have to say, and if you want to check them out for yourselves, I've left the link in the description below. I don't want to go through every single change, because, I mean, there are so many. So I've extracted the notes that I'm most interested in. I may have missed a few important changes since there are so many. Just a heads up though, the range meta has not been nerfed or tweaked. For example, Scrounger, Crossbow, Beam Staff, and so on. I'm not really surprised, to be honest. Fat Shark have taken way too long to release their first major DLC, and many, if not most people, are rather displeased with this. So the last thing they'd want to do is start nerfing some key things to the ground and risk infuriating players even more. The good news, however, is that even though range has not been nerfed or drastically altered, melee has been buffed in various ways. So that's definitely excellent news. I'm really happy about that. In fact, I've been telling my friend for quite some time now that, I mean, the ranged meta is just so powerful in this game that I feel like melee should really be buffed a bit, to be honest, to make it a bit more viable when playing with other people that are just destroying everything from ranged. So let's take it from the top, shall we? Okay, so there have been quite a few audio changes, but the one that I'm kind of happy with, you could say, is that the Gutter Runner will play its stinger, the sound that plays when it spawns, earlier. This means that you won't have situations where you hear the stinger as the Gutter Runner pounces, so I'm really happy about that. As for the UI or user interface, there is now an option available under settings to enable gamepad, controller HUD, and menu layout while playing on the PC. No, I'm joking, that's completely useless. Now we can finally save our favorite items in the inventory so that they don't show up in the salvage selection. Favorite items show first in the inventory screens, so that's great because I actually destroyed one of my cosmetics by accident, and some people have destroyed red weapons that they didn't want to destroy, so it's about time they actually implemented this. I don't know why it wasn't implemented earlier, but it's important because once you do start having quite a few cosmetics, then the last thing you want is to destroy them by accident, so it's about time. I'm happy with this. As well as hats are no longer first in the salvage selection of items. Yeah, I don't know. The mind boggles, I have to say. This is why I destroyed one of my cosmetics. It was the first thing, I wasn't paying attention, I accidentally right-clicked on it and I destroyed it, and I didn't even realize until literally 2 weeks later. Another interesting addition is that they've added server ping to each player in the tab menu, so this is great. This time you'll know if you're lagging all and you're a client, you'll be able to see where the host is playing from, so all of these little details are fantastic. The only thing I'm actually worried about with this addition is that there will be people that will look at your ping and automatically kick you just for having a high ping, so we'll see how that goes. As for levels, boss doors will now spawn for all bosses further into the level. You need to defeat the boss before proceeding. So as you know, when you get a boss spawn such as a Battle Troll or a Storm Fiend, you'll get this green slimy wall further into the level which stops you from proceeding until you've actually killed that boss. Now the difference is that with some other bosses such as the Chaos Spawn, these walls weren't appearing for some reason. I'm not sure why. Clearly that obviously wasn't intended because now they've fixed it and now all bosses are going to have a wall. So yeah, a lot of people won't be very pleased with this because, you know, people who want to do speed runs, that kind of thing, now they'll be blocked if they get a boss. So it'll be annoying to some people. We'll see how that goes as well. As for tweaks, significantly increase the impact damage and damage over time of incendiary bombs. Hallelujah. I mean, up until now, at least for me, I found the incendiary bombs not that useful, let's be honest. I mean, they were really only useful for, you know, if a chaos spawn would grab a player, you would just use it to stagger the boss and, you know, so they would let go of the player. But aside from that, I mean, they're not that great, so I'm happy that now they actually do more damage. We'll see, although we'll have to test that to see. Also, a really nice tweak. Again, there will be some people that won't be very happy with this, but I'm sure the vast majority will be very happy with this. And it goes as follows. Trolls turned out to be quite hard to kill on higher difficulties, especially when facing them alone. To balance this, they've changed the passive regeneration of trolls to pause for 3 seconds after taking damage. In other words, if you're by yourself and you're nuking the battle troll, they will not be regenerating because they're receiving constant damage, so they won't be regenerating. That's pretty cool. Weapon fixes and changes. Oh, this is where melee is getting a nice buff. So, increased push radius for all melee weapons, that's a nice addition. Increased push strength for all melee weapons, great. Reduced stamina regen delay after forward pushing, wonderful. Rework damage calculation for headshots, minimum damage output. Headshots should now scale better on higher difficulties for weak armor-piercing weapons against armored enemies. Great. Reloads have been overhauled. They should now more smoothly transition into other actions such as blocking after firing a ranged weapon, for example, a longbow. This should fix issues where you would fire, switch weapon to try and block very rapidly, and the block action getting eaten, causing you to get hit by enemies. Oh man, I've been waiting for this for such a long time. It's about time they actually fix this. It was just so annoying before, especially for Huntsman Kruber, when you were shooting with, for example, the longbow, and it would just not change to your melee weapon, or it would just take way too long to change, and you would just get hit a lot. So I'm so happy, I'm so pleased with this. Fixed an issue where area of effect damage from projectiles like the charged attack on Sienna's fireball staff wouldn't affect surrounding enemies when it impacted it on an armored or shielded enemy. This is great as well. There's going to be some splash damage, so if you do your charged fireball staff attack at a storm vermin, for example, and that storm vermin is surrounded by other mobs, those mobs are going to take damage as well. So really great. Happy with that. Yeah, so much for the range meta getting nerfed. They're actually fixing it so it's actually better than before. Great. Hey, wonderful. For Carillian's two-handed sword, heavy attacks can now be held indefinitely. Okay, I mean, that's a nice perk. Not too bad. Empire Longbow, increased accuracy when zoomed in. This is actually very good. I'm actually pleased with this because sometimes for some inexplicable reason, you think that when you zoom in with a longbow, you're going to be more accurate, right? I mean, isn't that the whole point? But it was actually less accurate. That's why I would never zoom in all the way. It was very rare for me to zoom in all the way because sometimes the bow would just go left, it would go right. I don't know. It was a bit messy. Executioner Sword, slightly increased movement speed for heavy attacks. Okay, this is actually nice. 'Cause I've been playing around with the Executioner Swords. It's very powerful, especially on headshots. It's great. I like it a lot, but it's just so slow. So I'm glad they actually increased the movement speed, even though it's just a little bit, but every little helps. For two-handed swords, new attack. Push attack is now a heavy cleave from above. Pierces armor. Great. Anything that pierces armor is A-okay in my book. They've also increased the range attack of all attacks for two-handed swords. Great, positive. Heavy attacks now cleave through armored enemies. Wow. I'm actually very interested to test this out when the patch releases. But if it's as good as I think, oh man, those two-handed swords which people were complaining about, oh yeah. Two-handed hammer, increased damage multiplier versus Chaos Warriors from 0.75 to 1.1. That's a nice damage buff. I'm looking forward to seeing the changes there. They've also buffed the monster damage with melee weapons, and this is an awesome change, since ranged weapons have been annihilating bosses for way too long now. You know, you go in with Sienna, you go in with the Huntsman, all of these classes where they just destroy bosses from ranged. But then you would show up, you know, you would go up with your Foot Knight or something, and it would just take you so long to kill a boss. So I'm glad that melee weapons are getting buffed versus monsters. Of course, this doesn't include the Shade with dual daggers because, yeah, I mean, that's the best boss killer in the game, but, you know, that's just the exception. So, as Fat Shark have stated in the patch notes, fighting monsters with melee weapons turned out to be very inefficient and unsatisfying for some weapons. They've increased the damage multiplier versus monsters for these melee weapons. So, two-handed hammer, dagger, one-handed sword, flaming sword, sword and shield, dual swords, sword and dagger, rapier, flail, elven spear, two-handed sword for Carillion, and halberds. Oh, nice. And you can look at all the numbers in the patch notes, but yeah, some buffs have been by 50% or even more, so I cannot wait to test that out. Okay, moving on to bug fixes. They've apparently fixed the issue involving enemies which would keep attacking players that go invisible during enemy attacks, so this is pretty good, because as many of you know, when you go invisible with the Shade, with a Huntsman, and there were mobs that would just keep attacking you even if you were invisible, which at that time I kind of understood because they were in their animation phase. So basically, if they would start attacking you before you would go invisible, they would have to finish that animation before they would actually drop aggro on you. So I'm guessing from what they're saying here is that if you go invisible, even though they've begun the attack animation on you, they will automatically change to someone else. So we'll see how that works. They've also fixed, oh yes, I couldn't wait for this, finally. Last one visual effect would appear when getting healed while playing a deed with sudden death. Yeah, so basically, for those of you who have played deeds that have the sudden death, which is basically if you go down, you can't get up, you die. You'll respawn further down into the mission, but you die immediately. The problem is that you would heal yourself and you would just remain with that visual effect of that grayness, and it was really, really annoying. But yeah, I'm really happy about this. They've also fixed the deed mutator harder, better, faster, stronger, which is basically elites do double the damage, and that is what everybody thought. They were actually doing an unintended 300% increased damage, which is just ridiculous. Basically, you could not survive any direct attack. Now, obviously, it's been corrected apparently, and they do 100% increased damage, so we'll see. They've also fixed the issue for career skills using a weapon which affects Waystalker Carillion, Ranger Veteran Bardin, Bounty Hunter Saltspire, and Pyromancer Sienna. They couldn't be activated whilst having something else than a ranged or melee weapon equipped, which was kind of weird, I guess, or... I don't know, it kind of makes sense in one way, but it was weird in another. So they fixed that, so now you should be able to use your career skill at any point. Another important fix which I've also been waiting for so long, and I'm sure many of you have as well, is the issue where screen space effects from career skills from Ranger Veteran Bardin, Huntsman Kruber, and Shade Carillion, they would get stuck on the screen if another instance of the skill were activated before the duration had run out. So basically, if you were, for example, with Shade, you had a concentration potion, a boss shows up, you go invisible, you hit the boss, you take your concentration potion, you go invisible, hit the boss, go invisible, hit the boss, go invisible, hit the boss, and when the concentration potion would finish the effect, you would keep that visual effect on your screen. And it was just horrible. It's just horrible. It's really annoying. Your screen gets really dark, you can't see anything. So finally they fixed that. I'm really happy. Another kind of funny fix is the issue where blood spatters were spawned in the air away from any hit enemy. Yeah, this is something we've been seeing from the beginning. You would hit a mob, and for some reason, the actual blood spatter would show up like 50 feet to the left or 50 feet to the right. It's really annoying, but finally they fixed that. Some other interesting changes for patrols. The patrol code has been almost completely reworked. There are now 3 types of patrols. Patrols that walk back and forth, patrols that walk in circles, and patrols that walk a long distance and don't go back. Patrols will now start patrolling as soon as they spawn instead of waiting in silence for duration. So this is great. This is a good change, because how many times have we gotten a patrol that we could not hear and they were literally next to us and they would just start walking and we would pull them because we were way too close to them because we didn't hear them, and they were just literally standing there without making any noise, without moving, without reacting. Yeah, so finally, great. Another great fix is Bardin Ranger Veteran, the talent which is Master Brewer, which is basically when you kill specials, you get potions. And I remember that when we were playing with the class, we just wouldn't get concentration potions, like ever. And apparently they fixed that now, so you actually do get concentration potions after defeating specials. Also for Kruber, they fixed an issue with the Huntsman's career skill, Hunter's Prowl. Basically, when you go into Hunter's Prowl, there was like this little zoom in effect. And basically, apparently the community wasn't very happy with this. I mean, I know I wasn't. So they basically replaced it with the former Hawkeye trait, same as Carillion Waystalker's Azrai's Vigil perk for the duration of the ability, so you won't be getting that effect, so that's good. For Sienna, they fixed some general issues regarding playing as a client or as a host, such as the Unchained Sienna's perk Unstable Strength. Now, I actually made a video about this because this issue was just completely unacceptable and it was pretty big. So basically, when playing as a client, you would receive an incorrectly capped power level increase, and when playing as host, you would receive double the power level increase. So they've fixed that. Playing as host, you would quite literally do double the damage with your melee weapon than being a client. So finally, now when you play Unchained, you don't have to be the host anymore. You can just join anyone and you'll do the same damage. Perfect. Another great fix which has been carried out for Saltspire, for Bounty Hunter in this case. As you know, the Bounty Hunter's passive ability is Blessed Shots, which is basically every 10 seconds you can get a guaranteed crit, or you reset Blessed Shots when you kill an enemy at melee. However, you could actually reset Blessed Shots when killing an enemy with a secondary pistol attack from Saltspire's Rapier. I actually had a discussion with somebody in the comments in one of my videos about this, and it actually seemed a bit, I don't know, crazy to me that you could actually do that. I mean, you have infinite ammo with a secondary pistol attack from Saltspire's Rapier, but you could actually reset Blessed Shots. I mean, that's kind of big. Granted, you have to be very close to the target to basically one-shot it or two-shot it. It's a bit of a pain, but you could still do it. I mean, potentially it's very powerful. So I'm kind of glad that they fixed this. Anyway, that's enough from me. This video has been going on for way too long already, but those have been my top picks from the patch notes. Let me know what your favorite feature or features are from this DLC, what you're looking forward to the most, and I will catch you in Bogenhafen. Dankeschön and guten Tag. Okay, I'll just stop now. Have a good night, everyone. Bye-bye.